Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Talking Thrones, and I am here with another Game of Thrones YouTuber, Sir Hunt's Reviews. If you have listened to some of my other videos, then you know I have been planning on doing some collab videos with some other Game of Thrones channels. Sir Hunt's Reviews and I have been discussing what kind of videos we want to bring you guys, so we decided we are going to do a Season 7 breakdown and analysis of several characters, with a bunch of theories and predictions as well, that we will be releasing on both of our channels. So make sure you subscribe to his channel, that way you can hear part 2 of this video. We appreciate all of you for spending time with us to discuss this amazing story. But before we get started, would you like to say anything, Mark?
What's up, everyone? Like Dan said, my name's Mark. I'm from Sir Hunt's Reviews, and I hope we can entertain you guys. And let's discuss Bran.
Yes, sir. Let's get into it. Mark, would you like to give a brief summary of where Bran Stark, Mira Reed, and Benjen Stark's characters ended up at the end of Season 6? Then we can jump into all of our Season 7 predictions.
Absolutely. Don't mind if I do. Last we saw him, he is outside of Castle Black, outside of the wall, basically, like right in front of it. And he's like in a wooded area. He's with Mira and Benjen, his uncle. Benjen basically lets him know, like, look, my job's not done yet. You know, I've brought you here. You need to post up, do what you do. I've got to go. So then Benjen ends up leaving, and then him and Mira talk for a little bit, and then Bran ends up hooking straight into the Weirwood net, and then we have the Tower Joy flashback.
Since Benjen left them there, do you think we're going to see Uncle Benjen again in Season 7?
Definitely. I don't know if it'll be the way the plot leak says it. It's like that would be just a little bit too repetitive. That along with like two other things I think are kind of like red flags. But I think we'll get to see him again. I think it may be like in Season 8, though. I don't know if we'll get to see him again in Season 7.
You didn't see the spoiler photos that showed Benjen, Jorah, and Tormund together in Northern Ireland getting ready to film that scene where that frozen lake was?
No, I did not, good sir. I missed that spoiler.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be filming that scene. I don't know if it's going to be exactly what the plot leak said, like you said, but Uncle Benjen was there with some of the other cast members filming something.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Thanks for the spoiler warning there, buddy.
Sorry, man. You talked about the plot leak before. I assumed you knew all this.
It's cool. It's cool.
Okay. Will Bran download any more visions at that weirwood tree north of the wall?
I think we're gonna probably get. I don't know if it'll be at that same weirwood tree, but I know we're gonna get more flashbacks from him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, there's something I've been thinking about. Benjen told Bran about the magic in the wall for a reason, I think. And what I mean by that is that the show telling us that it has the same magic as the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, which means Bran's mark is going to remove that magical barrier for the wall too?
I totally think that it's the same magic that was protecting Bloodraven's cave. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen. I don't know if it will. All right, so here's the thing. It could be one of two ways. It could completely de-ward the magic that's on the wall, which I think comes from weirwood trees that are built at the base of the wall. Like, I think there's incantations in it, but I think the majority of the source of that power comes from ancient weirwood trees that are built in the foundation of the wall. So I think one of two ways it could happen is basically he crosses through, goes to Castle Black, the ward magic is off, the Night King knows about that, and then they basically show him the rest of the season making his way towards the wall. Then at the end, obviously, they go over the wall, then the wall comes down. Or it could be that it weakens the magic, meaning that he can allow some to pass for like a short period of time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering if Bran and Mira are actually going to be forced to cross the wall because of the Night King showing up again, which would cause Bran and Mira to panic and cross the wall, even if they think his mark will remove the magic. Because we could get a scene in the very first episode during Season 7 that shows Bran and Mira discussing what happened at the cave and them wondering if there's any more harm to, any other barriers like the wall.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Now that you said that made me think of something. What if that does happen, what if Bran does a self-sacrifice because he knows if he goes past the wall, and then maybe he sends Mira off because he knows that she can at least make it to safety. And maybe Mira's going to be the one that spreads Bran's story of how he basically sacrificed himself. That'd be nuts.
That's what I was kind of wondering, man, if something like that would happen. Like, because I've had a ton of comments saying, why doesn't Bran just cut off his arm?
That's savage. Who are those people? Oh,
I
jeez.
know. I said Bran's already crippled. Do you think he wants to lose the use of another limb? Like, I don't know if he wants to take things that far, but I really don't know.
That would have been an interesting plot turn if for some odd reason, since he could walk, he tried to run away from the Night King, and the Night King ended up grabbing his leg. And then when he gets into the real world, he realizes that the mark is on his leg, and then he just does cut it off. That would be insane. I think it's
Hey,
more like I don't think it's like a physical thing. Like if the mark is removed, he's fine. I think it's more like he was touched when he was astral projecting. So that's something that's going to resonate with his spirit. You know what I mean?
I agree. I don't think cutting off his arm would really save himself. Now, well, actually, never mind. I don't even want to talk about that. But I'm kind of expecting when Bran and them eventually do get to the other side of the wall, I'm thinking we're going to see a scene with Bran and the new Lord Commander Ed, and that's when they're going to discuss what happened to Jon. What do you think about that? Do you think Lord Commander's immediately going to tell Bran, like, I'm sorry, your brother's not here. He was actually ambushed by other members of the Night's Watch. They murdered him, but he was brought back to life, but he left the Watch. He's done with this place.
I think Bran and Dolores Ed will definitely have that conversation early on. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, he might find out. You know what I mean? They could, maybe they won't show us, but maybe like when we catch up to Bran in the season, it's like somehow Bran knew that, bypassed Castle Black and headed straight for Winterfell. You know, he knew he could access the Weirwood Net and Godswood. And what if he somehow sees everything that's happened to Jon and everyone? And that's what he's basically doing right now. So when we see him like next scene or whatever, next season, he's already learned all that stuff. That would be a good way of fast forwarding through, excess conversations and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Bran can kind of find out shit on his own through visions. But what I'm also wondering is, does the Lord Commander even know that Jon has retaken Winterfell? Like, I wonder if Bran's even going to know that it's actually safe to go home.
Well, I'm sure Jon probably sent a Raven out, he probably one of the first things he's going to do after he kind of rebuilds Winterfell a little bit is probably reinforce the wall. You know what I mean? He might send the majority of his men back up there after he sorts through the issues of the North, like figure out what happens to the Umbers, the Boltons, and Karsarks, and all their lands that they held or whatever. So
yeah, he's definitely going to have to get some men at the wall. What do they have? Like 50 guys at the wall right now, at least at Castle Black. They have less than 100 guys.
yeah, it was like 10. I counted. Like unless there were more people that were with Dolores Ed when Jon had a send off, there was like literally 10 dudes up there. Like they would. That's why I was convinced that the season was going to end with the Night King showing up and slaughtering everyone, and like at the wall, basically.
Yeah, the Castle Black is screwed, man. I have a feeling that when the Night King and his army get through the wall, they're going to enter through the wall at Castle Black, just because that's been the focal point of the wall for the entire series, and I just see Castle Black being completely destroyed.
Well, they intentionally showed us. It was like foreshadowing back at Hardhome when all those walkers poured over that cliff. And obviously, it's not the same size as the wall, but if there's enough of them, they could easily do that like human. It's similar from World War Z. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, the zombie movie.
Yeah,
like
it's a great movie.
Yup. You remember how they get over the walls in Jerusalem? They basically pile on top of it. Yeah, the whites could totally do that.
Yup. Yeah, you're right, man. That could be interesting as hell. But would they be able to do that with the magic?
Well, if it's broken, if Bran's there, yeah. I don't think Bran would know that. I mean, he should. He should put it together. Like, obviously, what was protecting Bloodraven's cave was the Weirwood roots. So it should be something similar to that at the wall. You know what I mean? He knows that it repels magic. So he would think like, okay, well, the magic at Bloodraven's cave repelled magic. I went in there and then fucked everything up. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know.
Bran has to be able to put two and two together. Like that's why I think Uncle Benjen, like they showed us him telling Bran that for a reason. Like, hey man, you know what just happened at the cave, and it was because of that mark. He just told you the wall has pretty much the same type of magic that the cave did. So if I was Bran, I would assume that my mark is going to carry through that wall too.
Yeah, definitely. If anything, I just think it will be interesting the way it goes down, like it's got to be one of those ways we just mentioned.
Yeah, regardless, it's going to be fun as hell to see. I can't wait to see how they actually do that.
Yep.
So, Mira's mission was to get Bran Stark to the Three-Eyed Raven. And now that she has done that, her mission is pretty much complete. So is she going to return him home safely, then probably return to her homeland herself? Like, what do you think about that? Do you see Mira going home as soon as she gets Bran to Winterfell, assuming that's where they go?
I see her. I want to see her go home. I think she's going to fight. She's obviously going to fight Bran about it, but Bran is going to be like, look, you did your job and then some. You got me to the wall and back. And as we all know, it's a well-known rumor in Westeros, you don't come back from venturing beyond the wall. Jon has been back. Benjen has been back. Bran has gone and been back. And look at all of them. They've all changed. Like, you know, Benjen is a living zombie. Bran is basically a green seer. And Jon is now reincarnated. You know what I mean? So, or not reincarnated, basically like resurrected. So it's interesting to see what, and you saw Crowley, he was at the wall and he had sex with all of his daughters and gave up his sons to the White Walker. So I think there's something about going to the wall and crossing. And I think there's very few people that can actually do that. Jon is the only one. You know, I don't think Bran, the more I'm saying this, the more I'm starting to think, I don't think Bran is going to ever leave Castle Black. And if he does, it'll be returning his body to the crypts of Winterfell.
You think Bran's going to stay at Castle Black the entire season?
I totally do. Now that I'm seeing that, like it's almost like they're trying to they've been foreshadowing it for a while. Like there's something, you know, there's not very many people that okay, Sam's been beyond the wall and back and he's fine, I guess, and Gilly too. Okay, so then I see him being at Castle Black for the majority of the season. I will say that. Unless they somehow get overwhelmed at the wall and then the White Walkers set up a base there, and then they're able to escape to Winterfell, and then that's where they hold the major battle or something. I see him being the majority of the season. I see him being at the wall.
Yeah, he could be there for some time, but I actually expect to see Bran back inside the walls at Winterfell, tapped into the werewood tree that's there in the Godswood, and using that werewood tree there to download more and more information as much as he can. I kind of see him being back at Winterfell at some point and using that werewood tree there.
Yeah, if he, you know, if he's smart, that's what he should do. But, you know, they're going to make us be on edge longer. So they're probably going to make him do some dumb decision and think that he needs to stay for at least the first battle or until Jon gets there or something. You know what I mean? But if he was smart, he would go back home to Winterfell because at least he could freely access the weirwood net without having to worry about someone running up on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right, man.
If I'm not mistaken, Sansa and Ramsay got married in the Godswood, so we know it's still there. We know the Boltons didn't like cut it down or something.
Yeah, well, Sansa and Littlefinger had that scene out at the werewood tree. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. When he's trying to basically say, "Come with me to the Vale." Yeah.
Yeah, when he said, "I have a picture of me on the Iron Throne with you by my side," Sansa was actually out there praying.
It was funny too. It was like she's basically saying like, "God help me." Like get this fool.
Yeah. I love that scene, man, because Littlefinger told Sansa, he said, "I just declared for House Stark for everybody to hear." And Sansa basically said, "You've done that before. That doesn't mean anything to me. We know you always do things to benefit yourself."
I.e., right before you put a dagger to my father's throat. And basically is the reason why he was, you know, wounded by Jaime. Like he would, whatever.
Yeah. But anyways, to touch back on Mira Reed, I really hope Mira Reed does get in contact with her father, which could set up the meeting between her father and the Starks. Most importantly, Jon Snow. That way his true parentage can be confirmed. But it's kind of strange that we haven't been seeing Howland Reed every time the Starks have needed their bannermen, or even when Jon was named King in the North.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's been? What's up with him?
Where do I think who's been?
Howland Reed. Why hasn't he been there when the Starks have needed their bannermen?
I think he's either completely cut out of the show, or they're saving him for something big, like a big reveal. That being Jon's parentage or something. I want to see him, but I think it's just, you know, unless Mira has journeys home, you know, I can't see him coming back into play.
I think considering the show has already introduced us to Howland Reed during the Tower of Joy scene, I think the chances of them introducing him again is very high, very likely, I think.
Yeah, see, that completely slipped my mind. I forgot about that. Okay, so then, yeah, there would be some relevance to it for the average show watcher. Like, you know, book readers, we know who Howland Reed is very well. So it would be interesting. Well, I guess not very well. It's kind of been, yeah. But yeah, so it definitely would bring some relevance to it. So I could see them doing that. And I think the way they'll do that is if Bran forces Mira to go home, and then we'll see Howland then.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see Howland Reed again. I think Bran is going to tell John about his parents at some point. It might not be in season 7. They're probably going to tease it the entire season. But then I think we're going to need Howland Reed to come in at some point to confirm that and possibly tell us about the Sword Dawn. Did Ned really send it back to Starfall, or does Howland Reed actually have it?
Yeah, that would be interesting to see if like if we get a complete Tower of Joy flashback and we find out what happens, with a wet nurse, we find out what happens with the Sword of Dawn, whether Ned takes that journey back. Maybe we'll get to see Ashara Dane, who's a legendary beauty.
Yeah, the circumstances around her suicide is very fishy to me.
Yeah, and I was about to say, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into Ashara Dane in this video, but I never liked the way that sounded, that Ned showed up and gave her back the sword, then she killed herself. I don't know about that, man. I don't feel like that's the way it went down.
Yeah, everyone was told it was because she had a miscarriage, but I doubt that.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to see. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think it would be cool to see the show's interpretation of Greywater Watch. Like, the way it's described in the novels, it sounds like it could be somewhat similar to, I know I'm going to make another Star Wars reference, sorry, but it's similar to the planet that Yoda's on. It looks very similar to that. So it would be interesting to see that kind of environment on the show. We haven't really seen, other than when Cersei had her own flashback from she was remembering the Maggie the Frog prophecy, we haven't really seen that kind of landscape at all really on the show. So it should be interesting to see the show's interpretation of Greywater Watch. I would love to see that. Or just other Chronogmane. You know what I mean? Like Howland, the show version of Howland didn't exactly fit the description of Book Howland. You know what I mean? So it would be cool to see if maybe they can manipulate that somehow. Because I think the Children of the Forest mixed with the Chronogman or like, they share a similar ancestor or something. And that's the reason why the Chronogmen look the way they do. You know what I mean? So it would be really cool to see if the show showing other, like if they did have Mira go home and we get to see Howland Reed, and maybe we get to see, maybe on the show he has like other kids, or maybe he's got, like just someone near him. That it would just be cool.
Do you think Howland Reed has the same capabilities as his son did, Jojen?
I think it's just like the Starks. Like, George Martin confirmed all Stark children are wargs. So if my theory about, well, it's not really my theory. That's the thing with Game of Thrones, like we all share theories. But if it's true that the Chronogmen mixed with the Children of the Forest, then that should, theoretically carry down the line. And it would make sense if the Starks are mixed with, the first White Walker was a Stark, and that's how the Starks carried it through their line or something. But yeah, it might be a little bit too fantastical to make Howland a Greenseer too. You know what I mean? Because
I don't know if they're going to go into all that. I just don't think they have the time. You know what I mean?
And also, if they do, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot, because they could have made, or George, he could have wrote it so that Howland was the one to go get Bran. Since we knew that Jojen was suffering from seizures and shit, like he wouldn't send his decrepit son. You know what I mean? If Howland was able to like basically say, like, look, I'm getting visions too. This is what you need to do. So I don't know if they'll do that. If they do, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot.
Can you hear that printer in the background?
No, sir.
Okay, just checking. Okay, now speaking of the reunions, we know Sansa's at Winterfell, and we know Arya is heading to Winterfell too. But for some reason, I don't think we're going to get this big reunion between all of the Starks at once. You know how the show always teases those reunions, just like when Bran, Mira, Jojen, and Hodor were at Craster's Keep, and Jon was fighting the members of the Night's Watch that went rogue. Bran could see him, and there was this chance of the big reunion between Bran and Jon, but then we were denied big time when Bran decided he needed to get the hell out of there and continue his journey to the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. So I don't really think we're going to see, if Bran goes to Winterfell, I don't think we're going to see Arya, Sansa, and Bran all there at the same time.
Oh, no. What they'll do is the episode that we think it's going to happen, they'll play the Stark theme heavily throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah, dude. We're going to be in our feels.
Yep, they're going to revert back to season 1 where we think everything's going to be all right once Catelyn makes it to Winterfell and, Ned's going to live and then bam. We think, like, I don't know about you, but I knew up until Ned's head got chopped off, I was waiting for fucking someone to show up. Or
so was I,
maybe
man.
that
so
he
was
was
I.
Yeah, or maybe that he was somehow magical and he was just going to break those restraints and just beat the shit out of Ilan Payne. Like, nope, never happened. So that, continuing with that theme, we got one Stark reunion, Sansa and Jon, and that's pretty much all we're going to probably get. Well, I'm not saying that other Starks won't meet back up with each other. I just don't think we're going to see everyone in the same room either until right before the battle for Dawn or unless someone's dead and they're burying that person.
I kind of think as soon as Jon leaves, spoiler alert, as soon as Jon leaves for Dragonstone to go meet Daenerys, I think that's when Arya is going to show up. So Jon and Arya are going to miss that reunion, and then Arya or Sansa is going to leave, and then that's when freaking Bran's going to show up. I think there's going to be a lot of close calls and teases, but they're going to kind of miss each other like they always have in the past.
I think this reminds me. I want to ask you something. When Bran comes back, everyone thinks he's dead. Sansa knows that, Theon told her, hey, those were just farmers' boys. Bran, and we all know Rickon's dead. So honestly, other than what Sansa knows, I think everyone's under the assumption that Bran is dead. So when he comes back, he's technically Lord of Winterfell. Would that not be interesting to see that play out? Like, what do you think is going to happen, basically? Do you think that's going to cause an issue, or you think Bran and Jon are both going to be like, look, you can have it? They're basically what Jon did to Sansa, like saying, you can have mother's room or you can have father's room. You know what I mean?
I think considering Jon and Bran had a very close relationship, which we saw in season 1 when Jon went and visited his room and said, hey, when you get better, come visit me at the wall. If you're brave enough, we'll go walking beyond the wall and stuff like that. I think since they were so close, I don't think Bran would have too big of an issue with it. Considering Jon won it back by force, you know what I mean? I think he would respect the fact that Jon is king in the north. But what is going to be really interesting is now that Bran knows he's half Targaryen, how's that going to play out? I wonder what Bran's feelings are toward Targaryens.
Honestly, we know in the novels Bloodraven is a Targaryen. If they had done that in the show, where maybe Bran can. Maybe if Bran does get a lot of time in the Weirwood net, which I could totally see this happening if we were getting 10 episodes at least in season 7. There might be more in season 8, but if they do explore that more, it would be cool to see Bran go back and see Bloodraven before he became Bloodraven. And maybe that's how he'll learn more about his own powers, is by seeing Bloodraven's journey. And when he does that, he finds out he's a Targaryen. And then I don't think Bran has anything against the Targaryens. We saw that he's well aware because he was being trained by, the Maester at Winterfell. He was being trained about, like, royal houses, so he knows about the history of Westeros and whatnot. I just don't think that's going to bother him at all. I think, if anything, he's going to think Jon's extra special because of that, especially once he finds out that he was resurrected by the Lord of Light.
Yeah, plus Ned has always kind of respected the Targaryen, so it's not like Bran grew up in a house to where his father was always bashing the Targaryens either, so he really doesn't have too much of a reason to hate them.
Exactly. Like Ned was Ned was an honorable man. So,
and he knew the true story. He knew Lyanna wasn't kidnapped and raped and murdered. Like, he knew. That's why every time Robert was bashing the Targaryens and wanting Dany dead, and he basically told Ned, why aren't you mad? They kidnapped and killed your sister. And Ned just looked at him like, if you only knew.
Yeah. It's like, well, Robert was worried about killing Daenerys almost the whole first season, and all he kept saying was she's just a child. That's why a lot of people think that Jon and Daenerys are twins. I strayed a little bit away from Bran, so let's bring it back in. But that's why a lot of people think that, is because they think that, Ned felt an attachment to Daenerys for a reason, and that could be because that's his niece.
He knew that's Jon's family too.
Yeah.
And he loves Jon like a son.
And I think the way the show's going to do it, it'll be a little bit different from the novels, but I think the way the show's going to portray it is that Robert, Ned, and Rhaegar were all friends as a child.
Really?
Because we know Ned and Robert grew up
at the Vale.
Yes, with Jon
Arryn.
So yeah, it could totally be possible that maybe they'll say King Aerys sent his son to go live there too. We know that that's not how it went down in the books, but the show could totally do that. They could take liberties with that. It might piss some people off, but they could, and that would make it even more intense. Like when they're all fighting, like basically Robert killed his childhood friend. That's something that the show will totally take liberties with.
Yeah, they haven't. It's not like they haven't done something crazy like that before in the show.
Yep.
But what I think is kind of like what we were discussing earlier. I think Bran is going to get back to Winterfell. I think he's going to set up camp inside of the Winterfell's walls for a while once he gets there and use the weirwood tree and the Godswood to continue downloading as much information as possible. So, like, if he does that, what visions, like whether past or present, do you think we will get to see in the show? Or better yet, which visions would you like to see?
I would say Turning Harrenhal, number one. The rest of the flashback. And then I know I've mentioned this before, but probably, Battle at the Trident. There's no weirwood trees around there, but I would like to see that.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, it could be from another person's perspective because that's what they did with Maggie the Frog. So Bran's not the only one we've seen visions through. You know what I mean?
How awesome would it be to see Robert swing that big-ass warhammer and bash Rhaegar right in his chest and see those rubies just go flying out into the water? That'd be incredible to see, man. I would love that.
Every time I read that, I always picture this image of from the movie Friday when Debo got knocked out and the dude ran up and stole his shoes. Like, it's something like that because that's what people were doing. They ran up and tried to grab
they took
the
his
jewels.
rubies and shit.
Yes, that would be so
Yeah, man.
And the way they could do it is go straight into it. Like, not even have, a normal intro to the episode where we check in with our favorite characters. Like, they just go straight into the flashback, just like they did in season 5. They went straight into the Maggie the Frog flashback. So it was more like you're like, okay, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, what's that called? A hard open or a soft open?
Yeah, it's something like jumping. I don't know. I can't think of the exact word, but I know it's basically like you jump straight
or something like that.
Yeah, you jump straight into the story.
Yeah, before the credits actually roll, so you don't know which actors are actually going to be in the show.
Yep. You could just be like, well, we all would know. We all would know exactly what's happening, but the average person might not. So it would be important to have, similar actors to the ones we saw in the Tower of Joy. We haven't seen Rhaegar yet, and a lot of people see him.
Yeah, no. Well, there was some news that came out a while back, and there was actually a photo circulating around online that showed this blonde-haired guy who may have been casted.
Yeah, I think that was fake, though. I think that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was just a fan of the show because he's like some singer or something, which makes sense. Rhaegar's a singer, and he obviously looks the part. He dyed his hair blonde, all that good shit. And in the picture, it's actually just a picture he posted to his own Instagram. He's basically holding a bow, but Rhaegar's not known for, using a bow, that's fine. That's more of like a Legolas thing, but I think it's more of he was trying to cause enough of a stir in the media so that they would pick him because of that. Like, Dan and Dave would hear about it because of that. Like, basically,
that kind of sucks, man, because I really want to see Rhaegar.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying we won't see Rhaegar. I just don't think it's going to be that Devin guy. Yeah. Right. I guarantee, I promise you, we will. I would say it right now, bold prediction, we will definitely see Rhaegar by the end of season 7 in some way or the other.
Personally, man, I want to see the tourney of Harrenhal. Not just because of the significance of the meeting between Lyanna and Rhaegar, but also because of all the characters that were there. There were so many characters that we know that were there.
Yep, Howland Reed.
Why am I echoing?
I'm not sure. You're not echoing on my end.
Sounds like it's coming through your speakers in your house.
Everything sounds fine on this end.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but anyways, like I said, I'd love to see the tourney of Harrenhal for sure. Even if it took up a half of an episode, I would love to see that.
Yep. Or, I wouldn't mind also a feature-length movie. That would be awesome too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not for the tourney of Harrenhal, but for, the Battle of the Trident.
You think they'll ever do that and make a movie based off of this?
I do remember, which I kick myself in the nuts all the time for not going to go see it. But I remember when they released a few episodes of season 4 at IMAX, like the Battle at the Wall.
The
Wildlings. Yeah. So they released a few episodes to be viewed at IMAX, and everyone just assumed they were going to do that with the most climactic episodes of the season every year, but they never did, and they never mentioned that they'll do it again. And I remember at the Comic-Con, the woman who's in charge of shit like that, she was asked straight up. Someone came up to her and was like, "Hey, are you guys ever going to plan on releasing?" Or she was like, basically the person asked her, "What episodes are going to be released this year to IMAX?" And she was like, "I wasn't told we were ever going to do that again." So, but just the idea that they've done something like that, I know they would, and it would probably make more sense to wait till the show goes off and then do that. You know what I mean? Because that would take. I want them to do it right, so that would take a lot of time.
I actually made a prediction video about Bran Stark a few months ago, and in that video, I listed a few reasons why I think Bran Stark may need to warg a dragon. Because we know the three-eyed raven said those famous words to Bran that you're never going to walk again, but you will fly. And I don't think that means he's going to ride a dragon, but I think that actually means that he's going to warg a dragon. And maybe even not because he wants to, but because he has to. Like they need him to. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm going to comment on the first thing you said about riding a dragon. That is actually possible. We know Tyrion made him that saddle to be able to ride with his legs broken. So Tyrion should make that same ideal saddle when Tyrion rides a dragon. But what if Daenerys is like, Bran, we need you, which leads me into that. Do you want me to share that bold prediction, that bomb drop right now?
Well, let's finish talking about the warging of the dragon.
All right. Well, yeah, it kind of plays into that. So basically, I could see. I mean, I could potentially see it happen. I don't necessarily, not see it happening. I'll say that.
Yeah, because I have a feeling. I know they didn't show it in the show. Euron having the dragon binder at the King's Moot, but I still feel like we could see that in a show. I think the dragon pit that they used as a location to film in for season 7, I don't think that's just going to be for a parlay scene. I actually going to be kept there, and it's not just going to be Dany's. I think they may hold one there prisoner when Euron and Cersei team up.
Hang on, the audio cut out real quick. What did you say? You think what's going to be kept there?
Are we still recording?
Yeah, it's still recording. You can edit this part out. I was just saying, just go back and say that part again because you cut out when you said that.
Like they have a new location that they're going to be using for season 7. They got a dragon pit, and it's apparently going to be used for a big parlay scene, but I don't think they got this dragon pit just to film a parlay scene. I feel like they could do that anywhere. They could do that in an open field. I think this dragon pit's going to come into play because the dragon's going to be kept there, and not just Dany's dragon, but one that is being there held captive by Euron and Cersei when they form this alliance. Because as of right now, Dany's forces and her big dragons is too much of a force. Like she's pretty much unstoppable at this point. So someone's going to need an equalizer to kind of even the odds. And I think we still could see the dragon binder from Euron, that's when we would need Bran to warg that dragon to get it back.
So do you think that someone else has a dragon that Euron's going to take over? You're saying Euron's going to take one of Dany's dragons from her with dragon binder?
Yeah, Dany. She's the only one that got any.
Okay, I was confused. I thought you were saying like you think maybe he has one somehow. I was about to say that would be nuts. That would be insane.
No. But what I was saying, we didn't see the dragon binder during the King's Moot, but I don't think that necessarily means he doesn't have one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. I think there's a chance for sure. There's definitely a chance it could happen. I just think that if it were, like if it was gonna be a major, like, he pulls it out like, oh, okay, here, well, there's also this. She's got dragons, but I have this. I think it would have been maybe like they would have caught up with Euron before he went back to home with the Ironborn, before he went back and killed Theon's father. Like before he went back and did that, they would have shown him out at sea with his crew. And he like maybe just a little quick showing, or maybe it was like a mental flashback and he remembers how he got Dragon Binder or something. They would have dropped little subtle hints like that or something. And also you got to think too, is like, that's a whole nother, that takes a lot of explaining to do, because definitely the average person who watches the show is not going to know any idea what the hell that was. And, it was mentioned, there have been the Horn of Joramun. There's been horns mentioned in a lot of magical artifacts and stuff in the books where obviously we know to look for something like that. But in the show, I think that would come out of nowhere. The reason being that might be, they feel like if they had spent more time with the Ironborn, they could have definitely developed that. But I don't know. We'll see. I think it's like a 35% chance happen that the horn could be brought.
See, I actually disagree, because I don't think it would be that hard to explain. All they'd have to do is show a quick scene with Euron as he's getting ready to approach Dany and her forces. All he'd have to do is pull out this horn. We've already seen horns in the show before. All we have to do is be like, I have this dragon binder. It can bind dragons to my will. And there it is. It's basically explained. You know what I mean? And he blows the horn, or well, he's actually going to have somebody else blow the horn, because from what we know, it actually kills the person.
Yeah, so they turn to stone. I think, I Well, that's why he gives it to Victarion, because he wants Victarion to blow the horn basically when he sees Daenerys. So Victarion
and Victarion knows that his gifts are poison.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think how you're saying that it could go down that way. I just feel like that would just be for me personally, and that's probably why. It's my own personal opinion. I couldn't see, and honestly, I want the only way for Daenerys to dragons to get taken out would be like the most practical way, which would just be to just completely kill one. We saw Drogon would have died in Daznak's pit, or in the pit of Daznak, if Daenerys hadn't hopped on him and flown away right then. So dragons are everything, but once they're cornered and you fucking spear them, they're definitely mortal. You can take them out. I don't want her dragons to be taken out, period. But I want one of them to be taken out of play that way, as opposed to the horn. I think the horn, it's like, yeah, he could totally be like, I picked this up on my journeys. He did, horns have kind of been mentioned on the show, but not like in the novels. Jon goes and stands inside the supposed horn of Jormon, and it's 6 feet wide and crazy. It's like descriptive. So we know,
it's huge.
Yeah. And I think the only problem with that on the show is like everyone would be asking, okay, well, he has the horn. Where the fuck does it come from? What's the magic behind it? Because, we've seen dark magic on the show. We've seen zombies. We've seen shadow babies. We've seen dragons with fire. We've seen Daenerys manipulate fire. We've seen that. So if anything, that's practical magic, if you will. But something like Dragonbinder, basically being able to take control of something else, honestly, I guess the Dragonbinder would basically be like warging. You know what I mean? It's almost like
that's basically exactly what it is.
But I don't know. I think it's just my personal opinion. I just don't know. I think that'd be a little bit too much.
I think it would be easier to explain the Dragonbinder than all of Bran's like time travel shit.
Well, they've been explaining that since the beginning. Like when we first,
and people still don't get it.
Dreams, yeah, he was having wolf dreams, so we know there is some sort of like astral projection happening, because we realized he was traveling in his direwolf body. You know what I mean? We could see like when there was some scene, I think, when basically Summer went down to take a drink of water or something like that, and he remembers doing that. So that's when we realized, so they've been planting seeds for that kind of magic the whole way throughout the show. I just something like that is basically, that's like a whole new type of magic. That's being able to control someone, which I guess not, because I guess Worgen. I don't know.
Let me propose the question to you like this. Okay, the three-eyed raven told Bran, "You're not going to walk again, but you're going to fly." Okay, everybody's assumed that meant he's going to fly on a dragon. So if Dany, hold on a second. Hold on. If Dany, Jon, and Tyrion are flying on the dragons already, why would they need Bran to do it? I think the only way they would need him to fly is to warg one, because it was taken over.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I just think, I took that as he's gonna warg a bird. Like he's gonna warg a crow or a raven.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of boring, ain't it?
Yeah, my whole thing is though, like, I'm House Targaryen, so like I said, I don't want anything to happen to her dragons, and I think that since they did mention that they're as intelligent as humans, and we know Bran can skin change, so we know he can warg a human, so it would be possible. I think it's just like I can't get over that idea of something happening to the dragons. That's probably what it is.
I kind of feel like something has to, because she's just
there's definitely going to be something that happens to them. I just think they're going to be just straight up killed, like just some
right. Yeah, they're definitely going to die. Some of them will die for sure by the end.
Yeah, if not all of them.
What's up?
Well, I was going to say, if not all of them, because then magic would basically die again. Like the dragons came in with the magic to basically prevent this long winter from coming. And then once they do their purpose, which would be to take out all the White Walkers, then, they get killed in that process. Or
yeah, there'd be no point to have them still.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so if Bran doesn't warg a dragon, do you see him warging something else, like a wolf again?
Well, yeah, definitely. I can definitely see him warging almost any animal. He'll probably warg Ghost next season.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going to ask you.
I think Bran will. I don't know. I mean, we were discussing this the other day, which is where I kind of came up with this. But I think Bran could potentially warg a pack of whites, and we know they have basically little to no brain activity, so it wouldn't be too hard for him to warg multiple, whites. And it was almost like foreshadowing back when he got touched, basically when he got marked by the Night King. They were showing that, they think almost like a hive mind, like they were all looking one direction. He did something, the Night King turned them all around at once. So that's almost foreshadowing into Bran being like, all right, Let me do this. It would be so epic if Bran warged a pack of maybe 10 or 20 whites and then took those in and they started doing they basically started doing damage on the other whites that were still being controlled by the Night King, basically because those whites don't know to attack other whites. You know what I mean? So Bran with that pack of 20 White Walk, with that pack of 20 whites, we know he can't warg a White Walker. I don't think he can because they're pretty fucking intelligent. Yeah. But if he, or maybe he could warg a White Walker, and that's how he gets into the Night King's camp, is like he ends up, just cutting.
The show can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? If they want him to warg a White Walker, they're going to do that.
Yeah. And that's how Bran can maybe infiltrate and find out their numbers, and then maybe he'll get marked again in doing that. And that's what brings down the magic off the wall, because he's at the wall when that happens. Maybe Bran has to be at the location and be touched again in order for that to work. So basically, maybe it's like a one-shot deal. I know this is crazy here, but what if that mark that he has on him only was good for Bloodraven's Cave, because that's where it happened? So, it's basically just like a scar afterward. It's not,
right.
The scars remind you that the past is real. So basically what that is like a reminder. It's like maybe he's going to attempt to warg either at Winterfell, which we know is beyond the wall, or at Castle Black. And then the Night King catches him, just like he did last time, and touched them again. And that's when the fucking magic goes off.
I think your theory has a very high possibility. I think Bran does have the power to do something like that. He just hasn't been able to harness his powers yet and tap into its full potential. But we already seen that Bran and the Night King can kind of cross streams during their Green Seer. So I think he could kind of take over in some way.
Definitely.
It's definitely very possible. That would be pretty damn cool to see. Could you imagine Bran warging his whites or White Walkers and turning them against the Night King? Like they would turn around and start attacking him?
Yeah, that would be awesome. It's almost like they're on the same wavelength. Is like how he was like they were in the same field of like astral projection or whatever. It's like they're on this.
Are they the same person?
What'd you say?
Are they the same person, Bran and the Night King?
That's a little bit. That's a little bit too Preston Jacobs for me.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Preston Jacobs? What's that?
Like that's a little. He's another YouTuber. He does like crazy theories. A lot of them are really good. They're really good, like predictions and stuff. He just goes. I'll say tinfoil. That might be a little bit tinfoil for me to think that Bran is the Night King.
Right. I wasn't saying he was. I was just asking you.
Yeah. I don't.
Gotcha.
I think there's a possibility that Bran could be, Bran the Builder, maybe.
Yeah, like we've had several hints of that, several foreshadowings.
Basically, I like the idea, though, that Bran is basically the opposite, and he's the destroyer. So when he crosses the wall, he destroys everything. Well, one of the major things that Bran the Builder is known for, which was constructing the wall. So he's basically Bran the Destroyer. You know what I mean?
Or he could be the same person that built them and destroyed them.
Yeah, so like maybe yeah. It's like it would have to be reincarnated or something like that.
It sounds crazy, but I think they could explain that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just going right off the top of our head, explain. But if not it, we could come up with an explanation.
Yep.
Okay, now there's something I want to kind of throw at you. It's not like a theory or a prediction of mine. It's just something I kind of want to put out there just to see what your thoughts are about it. We haven't seen Nymeria since season 1, episode 2, man. It's been 58 episodes since we've seen Nymeria. If and when Bran gets back to Winterfell, is there a chance that he could be in a vision or something and warg into Nymeria and get her back to Winterfell?
Totally. Definitely. I could definitely see that going down. I've actually never heard that idea before. I know Nymeria is going to be making an appearance, but I like that.
Because ever since Arya parted ways with Nymeria, Arya's been kind of all over the place. So Nymeria hasn't really had a reason to go back to Winterfell because she has that connection with Arya. And since Arya hasn't been at Winterfell, Nymeria wouldn't go in that direction. But I was just thinking, I wonder if Bran could somehow get her back. If he could warg into her, even if she's far away, and bring her back home somehow. I think that would be cool as hell. If Arya doesn't find her on her own.
Yeah, or like, I was about to say, if the plot leaks right and they all meet back up, Sansa, Bran, and Arya back up at Winterfell, and Arya has her direwolf, maybe Bran ends up warging her just to go try to find Jon or something, or ends up warging her somehow just to help protect him. You know what I mean?
Taking the battle
maybe,
or something.
Would it not be insane? We know Baelish is supposed to die. What if Bran wargs? Like, okay, so like maybe Baelish is somehow able to get the upper hand and he's about to like do something, and then Bran wargs in Nymeria and then uses Nymeria to rip his throat out. So it's similar to like how Ramsay died. That would be awesome. I would love that.
I'm glad you said that, because in several videos I've talked about Littlefinger dying, and a bunch of people have like asked me in the comments how I want Littlefinger to die, and I've always said I would prefer to see Ghost just rip his ass to shreds.
Hell yeah.
So Nymeria doing it would be just as good. Littlefinger has to die brutally, I think.
He deserves it, that's for sure.
What's that?
I said he definitely deserves it, that's for sure. I know there's probably like 100,000 people that will disagree with me, but I'm not a fan of Baelish.
He definitely deserves it. I mean, Jesus Christ, look what he's done to the Starks and, you know, other people. He's killed 2 Hands of the King, you know, like he helped kill at least. He's done a lot of bad things, man.
And he also killed
to die.
Well, yeah, he technically had a hand in, you know, getting Sansa away, so he had a hand in Joffrey's death too. One thing I was gonna say is like, you know, that's what people's points are to, like, me and you, we obviously don't like Baelish, but everyone's argument to that is, well, he's the best player in the game. He's done. And then they'll list those same things you just listed of why you hate him as why they like him. You know what I mean? That's why
let me clarify something though. I hate Littlefinger as a person, but I love his character.
Respect the game. Yeah.
I love his character. He is needed in the show. You need that evil to play off of the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hate the player, don't hate the game. So his game,
as bad as I wanted to see Ramsay die, I still loved his character because of what he brought to the show.
Oh, I can't second that. I hated Ramsay. He was an awesome actor. I watched him in.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't like his actions. I don't agree with his actions, but I love that evilness that he brought, man, because you can't just have a good, friendly episode. You need that kind of shit to happen to build up that anger inside, you know what I mean, for that big payoff for when he does die.
Yeah, I called him the casual savage. Like when I first started watching and I saw him, I'm like, he just tricked the hell out of Theon, and then Theon's back. I couldn't figure it out. Like, I couldn't put it together. And then I realized, okay, he's just completely fucking with him. And then, you know, they show Theon after he knows something crazy has happened to him. And then you cut to Ramsay eating a sausage. And he looks at Theon and he's like, what? No. And he's like, no, this isn't your dick. I'm like, what the hell, dude? Ramsay is definitely casual savage.
See, I knew Ramsay was screwing with him. Like when he told, I knew Ramsay was screwing with Theon when he told Theon to go meet his sister. And then when Ramsay walked up and shot the guy with the bow and arrow, the guy was like, you little bastard, or you little prick, because he knew Ramsay set him up to kill him just to F with Theon.
That's how you know it's a game.
He's grimy, man. He was grimy as hell.
Hell yeah.
So let's just get into it, man. Let's get into the big question. Will Bran Stark die in season 7?
I think if he does make it through this season, he will die probably early on in season 8. I want him to make it to the end of the story to continue, but he's part of that magic. You know what I mean? We were talking about how if the dragons die, magic dies. Well, he's part of that magic, and that magic needs to go too. Obviously, we want them to have a connection to their past, but it's about rebuilding for the new. They need to, like, hopefully what happens is like their patriarchal society, or their monarchy that's all screwed up, and basically they, you know, have self-elected leaders. That's what I'd like to see. And in order for that to happen, no one can have an upper hand. And if Bran is up north, you know, technically we don't have to worry about the Starks doing anything crazy. You know what I mean? At least for the most part, not that we've seen none of them, but everyone can develop evil tensions, you know, at some point, especially if Bran has the access to look at the past. I think his journey will be up by the end of season 7. Like, he will have fulfilled his role.
So do you see him being in season 8 at all, though?
I think he will. And this reminds me back to that Star Wars reference. I'm not going to make it again, but I think his journey is similar to Luke Skywalker's in the sense that he has a role to play, and once he plays it, his role is going to be up. You know what I mean? There'll almost be no story left for him. So it's almost like the same question is like, why do you need dragons after, you know, they take out all the whites? And it would obviously be to help Daenerys conquer the rest of Westeros. But why would you need Bran if there's no need to have him making sure that the whites aren't coming? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Bran is going to survive season 7, but I do see another Stark dying.
Yeah, I see a few more of them.
Really?
Yeah, Benjen being one of them. You know,
Yeah,
like technically he died, but
he's
yeah,
a goner for sure.
yeah.
When I guess I forgot about Benjen, but when I said Starks, I meant Sansa, Arya, Bran.
Yep, John.
Because I don't even count Jon as a Stark.
I think it would be. I think Arya and Tyrion are the only two that are guaranteed until the end, because we all know that the show and the books are separate, meaning that like it's the same ending, but they take different journeys to get there. And I think the show should at least stay true to that journey, that part of the journey. Like, okay, those final people are alive. Maybe they kill off some of the other ones that are still alive in the novels, but maybe some of them, like the main ones, you know, Tyrion and Arya being the the creator and the creator's wife, it's favorites. I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see them at the end. And honestly, I like both. I'd be satisfied with either one of them. If we had to really choose, I'd be happy if they lived. You know what I mean?
Who's that?
Tyrion and Arya. Like
as a couple?
Well, no, not as a couple. Like saying, like if those were, you know, if all the other Starks died and Arya was the only Stark, you know what I mean? All the other Lannisters died. Tyrion was the only Lannister.
Oh yeah. I love both of those characters. Tyrion, I love Tyrion.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, so I guess we both agree that we're going to see Bran in season 8, at least for a little bit.
Yep. Probably for the major, like the major event, one of the major events.
He's going to be very important in season 8. I don't know how long he's going to make it. It's only supposed to be 6 episodes. I know they're still kind of in talks about how long they want to make season 8, but let's just say it's season 6. Sorry, let's just say it's 6 episodes for right now. I see Bran in a few of those, and he's obviously going to play a major role in that. I really can't put my finger on exactly what we're going to get that reveal, like who Bran Stark really is. Like he's not just the new three-eyed raven. Like there's something deeper than that. He's more than that. He's going to, you know what I mean? I can't quite explain it and put it into words, but
yeah,
Bran is one of the most important characters.
Yeah, they've been building him up for a while. Like we saw this, he suffered this huge tragedy, episode 1. You know, he didn't die. We all thought he was going to die. It might be episode 1, maybe it's episode 2. I'm not sure. But no, it's episode 1. Yeah, that's how it was the very end. Yeah, that's how it ends. Yep, and that's when I was like, this show is live. But yeah, no. So yeah, they've been, you know, they tore him all the way down, then they've slowly built him back up, and it would be extremely disappointing to see his end just happen out of nowhere without fulfilling even a greater purpose than what he's already done, which honestly, he hasn't really done anything too great. Well, he told us who Jon's parentage are in a roundabout way. You know, he doesn't exactly know himself. We know what happened to Hodor because of him, but he hasn't really fulfilled his destiny yet. And I'm curious to see what that is. I just don't see him making it all the way to the end just because he's so important. But definitely to season 8.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely see Bran being in season 8. So I guess this would probably be a good place to stop this. How long have we been recording for?
Almost an hour.
I thought so.
About 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot to end this part 1 of this video, and we're going to release part 2 on Sir Hunt's Reviews channel, so definitely make sure you guys subscribe to his channel so you can keep up with all of our uploads that we're going to be doing together. We're going to do several collab videos. I don't know how many parts of this series we're going to do, but there's going to be a lot because there's obviously a lot to discuss, and we only touched on Benjen, Bran, Mira, and Howland Reed mainly in this video. So stay tuned and keep your eyes open for that because we're definitely going to be releasing a part 2 video on his channel next. So we appreciate you guys for being here. I know this was a long one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We thank you for that. Mark, Sir Hunt's Reviews, would you like to say anything before we sign off, sir?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man. I hope you guys, everyone viewing this, I hope you all enjoy this content. If you do, make sure you slap a like on it. What do you want the like goal to be for this video?
1,000 would be nice.
Awesome. I agree with 1,000 because we're yes. But yeah, hopefully you guys make sure you go check out my channel, Sir Hunt's Reviews, to make sure you're well aware of when we drop part 2. I'm not exactly sure, but I think we may be covering either another House Stark member or we still haven't worked it out yet, but I'm leaning more towards Sandor. I want to talk about Sandor. I think he's got a pretty good role to play, but I think maybe Sandor in the Brotherhood or something.
Okay, yeah, we'll discuss Sandor and like a few other characters that he's kind of connected to right now. We can do something like that, kind of like how we just did Bran, and since he's kind of connected to Benjen and Mira and Howland Reed through the Vision and stuff like that, we can kind of talk about Sandor and like, the other guys that he may be in contact with during season 7.
All right, yeah, that sounds great. All right, so yeah, you guys heard it here. Next video will likely be about Sandor and the Brotherhood without banners.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Peace.
Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Talking Thrones, and I am here with another Game of Thrones YouTuber, Sir Hunt's Reviews. If you have listened to some of my other videos, then you know I have been planning on doing some collab videos with some other Game of Thrones channels. Sir Hunt's Reviews and I have been discussing what kind of videos we want to bring you guys, so we decided we are going to do a Season 7 breakdown and analysis of several characters, with a bunch of theories and predictions as well, that we will be releasing on both of our channels. So make sure you subscribe to his channel, that way you can hear part 2 of this video. We appreciate all of you for spending time with us to discuss this amazing story. But before we get started, would you like to say anything, Mark?
What's up, everyone? Like Dan said, my name is Mark. I'm from Sir Hunt's Reviews, and I hope we can entertain you guys. And let's discuss Bran.
Yes, sir. Let's get into it. Mark, would you like to give a brief summary of where Bran Stark, Mira Reed, and Benjen Stark's characters ended up at the end of Season 6? Then we can jump into all of our Season 7 predictions.
Absolutely. Don't mind if I do. Last we saw him, he is outside of Castle Black, outside of the wall, basically, like right in front of it. And he's like in a wooded area. He's with Mira and Benjen, his uncle. Benjen basically lets him know, like, look, my job's not done yet. I've brought you here. You need to post up, do what you do. I've got to go. So then Benjen ends up leaving, and then him and Mira talk for a little bit, and then Bran ends up hooking straight into the Weirwood net, and then we have the Tower Joy flashback.
Since Benjen left them there, do you think we're going to see Uncle Benjen again in Season 7?
Definitely. I don't know if it'll be the way the plot leads.
He's already crippled. Do you think he wants to lose the use of another limb? Like, I don't know if he wants to take things that far, but I really don't know.
That would have been an interesting plot turn if for some odd reason, since he could walk, he tried to run away from the Night King, and the Night King ended up grabbing his leg. And then when he gets into the real world, he realizes that the mark is on his leg, and then he just does cut it off. That would be insane. I don't think it's like a physical thing. Like if the mark is removed, he's fine. I think it's more like he was touched when he was astral projecting. So that's something that's going to resonate with his spirit. You know what I mean?
I agree. I don't think cutting off his arm would really save himself. Now, well, actually, never mind. I don't even want to talk about that. But I'm kind of expecting when Bran and them eventually do get to the other side of the wall, I'm thinking we're going to see a scene with Bran and the new Lord Commander Ed, and that's when they're going to discuss what happened to Jon. What do you think about that? Do you think Lord Commander's immediately going to tell Bran, like, I'm sorry, your brother's not here. He was actually ambushed by other members of the Night's Watch. They murdered him, but he was brought back to life, but he left the Watch. He's done with this place.
I think Bran and Dolores Ed will definitely have that conversation early on. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, he might find out. You know what I mean? Maybe they won't show us, but maybe like when we catch up to Bran in the season, it's like somehow Bran knew that, bypassed Castle Black and headed straight for Winterfell. He knew he could access the Weirwood net and Godswood. And what if he somehow sees everything that's happened to Jon and everyone? And that's what he's basically doing right now. So when we see him like next scene or whatever, next season, he's already learned all that stuff. That would be a good way of fast forwarding through, like de-ward the magic that's on the wall, which I think comes from weirwood trees that are built at the base of the wall. Like I think there's incantations in it, but I think the majority of the source of that power comes from ancient weirwood trees that are built in the foundation of the wall. So I think one of two ways it could happen is basically he crosses through, goes to Castle Black, the ward magic is off, the Night King knows about that, and then they basically show him the rest of the season making his way towards the wall. Then at the end, obviously they go over the wall, then the wall comes down. Or it could be that it weakens the magic, meaning that he can allow some to pass for like a short period of time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering if Bran and Mira are actually going to be forced across the wall because of the Night King showing up again, which would cause Bran and Mira to panic and cross the wall, even if they think his mark will remove the magic. Because we could get a scene in the very first episode during season 7 that shows Bran and Mira discussing what happened at the cave and them wondering if there's any more harm to, any other barriers like the wall.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Now that you said that, that made me think of something. What if, like, if that does happen, what if Bran does a self-sacrifice because he knows if he goes past the wall, and then maybe he sends Mira off because he knows that she can at least make it to safety, and maybe Mira's going to be the one that spreads Bran's story of how he basically sacrificed himself. That'd be nuts.
That's what I was kind of wondering, man. If something like that would happen, like, because I've had a ton of comments saying, why doesn't Bran just cut off his arm?
That's savage. Who are those people? Oh,
I know. I said Bran's
excess conversations and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Bran can kind of find out shit on his own through visions. But what I'm also wondering is, does the Lord Commander even know that Jon has retaken Winterfell? Like, I wonder if Bran's even going to know that it's actually safe to go home.
Well, I'm sure Jon probably sent a Raven out, probably one of the first things he's going to do after he kind of rebuilds Winterfell a little bit is probably reinforce the wall. You know what I mean? He might send the majority of his men back up there after he sorts through the issues of the North, like figure out what happens to the Umbers, the Boltons, and Karstarks, and all their lands that they held or whatever. So
yeah, he's definitely going to have to get some men at the wall. What do they have? Like 50 guys at the wall right now, at least at Castle Black. They have less than 100 guys.
Yeah, it was like 10. I counted. Like, unless there were more people that were with Dolores Ed when Jon had his send off, there was like literally 10 dudes up there. Like, that's why I was convinced that the season was going to end with the Night King showing up and slaughtering everyone and like at the wall, basically.
Yeah, the Castle Black is screwed, man. I have a feeling that when the Night King and his army get through the wall, they're going to enter through the wall at Castle Black, just because that's been the focal point of the wall for the entire series. And I just see Castle Black being completely destroyed.
Well, they intentionally showed us. It was like foreshadowing back at Hardhome when all those walkers poured over that cliff. And obviously it's not the same size as the wall, but if there's enough of them, they could easily do that like human. It's similar from World War Z. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, the zombie movie.
Yeah,
like,
it's a great movie.
Yup. You remember how they get over the walls? It says it. It's like that would be just a little bit too repetitive. That along with like two other things I think are kind of like red flags. But I think we'll get to see him again. I think it may be like in season 8 though. I don't know if we'll get to see him again in season 7.
You didn't see the spoiler photos that showed Benjen, Jorah, and Tormund together in Northern Ireland getting ready to film that scene where that frozen lake was?
No, I did not, good sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be filming that scene. I don't know if it's going to be exactly what the plot leak said, like you said, but Uncle Benjen was there with some of the other cast members filming something.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Thanks for the spoiler warning there, buddy.
Sorry, man. You talked about the plot leak before. I assumed you knew all this.
It's cool. It's cool.
Okay. Will Bran download any more visions at that werewood tree north of the wall?
I think we're gonna probably get. I don't know if it'll be at that same werewood tree, but I know we're gonna get more flashbacks from him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, there's something I've been thinking about. Benjen told Bran about the magic in the wall for a reason, I think. And what I mean by that is that the show telling us that it has the same magic as the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, which means Bran's mark is going to remove that magical barrier for the wall too?
I totally think that it's the same magic that was protecting Bloodraven's cave. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen. I don't know if it will. All right, so here's the thing. It could be one of two ways. It could completely ward, like,